Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to our new podcast, Beirut Buzz, brought to you by Beirut.com. My name is Lama, and with me today is my colleague Taleen, who you've heard on other episodes. If you haven't gone ahead and listened to those, I highly recommend them. We discussed the situation in Lebanon in one of them, and we have a great episode that is up with Embrace, the NGO, about their suicide prevention hotline. Taleen, how was your week, first of all?
Oh, it was pretty hectic, like with everything going on and just the news about everything going on with pharmacies, with not finding medication and pharmacies not being able to receive enough stock to give to their clients. That hits close to home. My dad being a pharmacist and having to go through this and hear about it all day, I guess. It just adds on to all the pressures going on. You just hear about it. You hear about people not finding everything they need. But when you have a pharmacist coming home and just complaining to you about all the sad faces he has to turn down every day, it's really hectic, but we're surviving.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah, a lot of people have been accusing pharmacists of not giving them the medicine, just keeping it for themselves. But I can confirm, this is some intel exclusive information that Anjad, the shelves are completely empty. Most pharmacies are just hanging on by selling cosmetics, shampoo, sunblock, all of these things. They're not really selling any medicine. They're all stocking up on things that they can just get by to feed their families.
Something that's so bewildering. We've heard of medicine shortages in other countries, often linked to war, where the country's going through war and then suddenly they stop having these imports and Panadol stops existing. But it's a very curious time to be living in Lebanon, one that I never thought that I would live through, because I think that we're a little bit, I'll speak for myself, I think I'm a little bit privileged in the sense that I didn't really think things would ever deteriorate this badly in the country. We always knew the country was fucked up and the political system was broken. In all fairness, we should have seen it coming, but this is just something so different. Dual queues and in line to get medication is so surreal. Have you gotten stuck in a fuel line yet?
Personally, no. I just send my parents to go do that because I know I don't work well in the car with the heat and just waiting. I'm very impatient.
Yeah.
I can't do that. Plus, I just abandon my car and walk back home.
This past weekend, I wanted to do some road tripping and stuff, and obviously I had to think twice, 3 times, but I thought it was such an idea on Saturday morning, 6:30 in the morning, and go to the nearest station. And I thought it was so smart, and there were 200 people waiting there. Not only was I not smart, we're all stupid. So it's to accept this is just so obscene and it's so crazy. And I ended up standing there. It took around 2 hours. So I got there 7 in the morning and I was there until 9. They didn't open the station until 8. And I stood in line for an hour. And then they gave me 20 thou worth. It's just so humiliating.
In my online classes, in the morning, for my morning classes, a lot of students are opening their cameras and they're in the car. They've been waiting in line since 6 a.m. and they're attending their 9 a.m. class while waiting in line. So it's really insane. You just never expect that it would get this bad.
Yeah, exactly. And we're lucky enough to work from home at this point. But it's quite curious. And it feels like we're just in Stockholm syndrome. We're just numb to it.
Surprising, because وقت الثورة when the dollar reached 1900, everyone, there were 1 million people برياض الصلح تحت الشهداء, and it was insane, and we were everyone was so happy about it. بس هلا دولار 15,400 if not more today, because that was yesterday. And you have to check 5 minutes to make sure. But everyone's still at home. You want to feel bad, you want everyone to move and do something, but at the same time you know what it's like feeling the need to just want to stay at home and not do anything about it. لأنه عن جد we've reached the breaking point.
I think the dictators in charge صراحة عملوا شيء كتير ما بعرف إذا ذكي أو إنه منه ذكي، بس هو كتير criminal, which is they spoon-fed us incrementally, like disaster, by the spoon for the past 2 years. Every day you get a piece of bad news. Everything collapses 1%. We're like the frog in the pan. Like, we got used to it. We normalized something that should never be normal. And yeah, I keep waiting for like, okay, أكيد اليوم الناس بدها جن. أكيد اليوم الناس بدها جن. I personally know people who are completely broke, not able to pay their rent. They borrow money to buy food for their household. They're on life-saving medication that they now cannot find. Every single day, I think today's the day when people lose their minds and hit the streets, but it's just not happening. People are way too tired to do it. People are way too broken, I think. Like, ourselves included. Right now, if there was a movement on the street, I just don't know if I would, like, what am I going to do? Hustle 20 hours of the day, and then hour 21, you have to go and take down this horror.
Yeah, they're like diverting your gaze كمان نفس الوقت from the important things, I guess. And lately, they've been doing a lot of things that maybe to them is clever, and maybe we're kind of stupid enough to believe it. But like الفترة مثلا لما they started publicly like investing in أراضي زراعية يقولوا يلا بدنا نرجع للزراعة blah blah blah, all of that going on. Recently someone, I'm not sure who it was, but they were saying إنه حليب الأطفال is not necessary. مثلا like you're
yeah.
Why are you diverting their gaze from what's really going on? It's like they're trying to soften the blow, or trying to like ما بعرف, trying to make up for whatever shit is going on by making people إنه يتشوشوا ما بقى يعرفوا على شو يركزوا. Like, do I want to attend my classes, or should I like be focused on my work? I want like also have to take into consideration the 3 hours I have to wait in line to get gas. I have to go look for medication. And then what time do I have to actually be a Lebanese citizen and go to the streets and actually do something about it? بالآخر you're just drained and you just don't want to do anything. ما حدا إله نفس. So I don't really want to blame anyone for not feeling the need to do something about what's going on.
And of course, when you're dealing with like dictators, which we are, we can't, there are no two ways about it anymore. It's not like we're not living in a democratic setup where things are fair and your voices are heard. It's not like the simplest thing in the world. Like, oh yeah, just go protest and you'll, it's like go protest and you might be beat by forces and by gangsters or whatever, and then you go home just twice or 3 times as broken as you were before.
كمان it's not just protesting. Like this week, the woman that وجهت ملاحظة to Gebran Bassil in Batroun, and she didn't really say anything. She just وجهت له. She said تفاه لا أكتر ولا أقل. She didn't curse. She didn't say bad things, disrespectful things to him, and she was immediately pushed to the ground and beat up. So it's not just a matter of protesting. It's just your basic right for freedom of speech. And now they want the people to think that the freedom to silence these insults is an actual freedom that's overshadowing our right to actually voice how we've been feeling over not the past 2 years, over the past 30 years in this country.
I'm shocked the guy still leaves this house. I mean, you are like the person everybody hates, Whether that's fair or not, I don't think it's fair, but there's something about him that is so aggravating that he became the poster child for our hatred, and now he like wants to go for lunch. You don't get to go for lunch, You have to stay home.
عن جد the audacity sometimes of them, لأنه وقت الثورة ما تركنا مسبة، not a single slogan ما بهدلت فيهم, and they still have the nerve to leave their house. بدي أعرف just all of this confidence من وين جاي so I can have that.
I'll tell you, it's 30 to 40 years of stepping on people's necks and getting your way and being so evil and just doing whatever you want, getting away with it all, getting more and more, getting applauded, getting re-elected. You will have that same confidence, These people don't live in the same real world that we live in. They have a distorted reality for sure, where their actions have no consequences and they're considered to be like gods in their social circles.
بس حتى if we want to like look at Gebran Bassil specifically, حتى his own party is rejecting him at this point. So ما بعرف how to like pinpoint all of this confidence عن جد. أنا أيام المدرسة إذا أستاذ وجه لي ملاحظة I would skip school the next day لأنه ما إلي عين like to show my face anymore عن جد. Like I have some إنه like my pride was hurt بس أنت تمسح فيك الأرض and you still feel like it's okay to go out and not expect people to بالقليل يطلعوا فيك بطريقة غلط. This woman that just told you تفه لا صبتك ولا إذتك, she didn't come for you or your family, nothing, just your performance as a failed political leader. It's so إنه ما بتفوت براسي honestly. It's aggravating عن جد.
وقد ايه قوية هيدي المرة because I've been out in public places وبفوت someone like once it was Marwan Khairuddin who owns a bank and he was a former minister, and I particularly don't like this guy because he hunts animals for fun. So he has like this hobby because as if ruining people's lives is not enough of a horrible thing to do, he will literally go shoot zebras, shoot like giraffes for fun. He goes on these horrible expensive safaris. He's just all around like a horrific person. Anyway, he walks into this restaurant and I so wanted to say something, and it's not that I'm not brave enough. I think I could pull it together to do something. It's just I'm not willing to undertake that cost, you know? إذا حدا ضربني إذا صار شي هيك إنه مني جاهزة أعمل هيك شي.
Yeah, I get you. يعني أنا a lot of times where I feel like I want to speak حتى in my family they would tell me please don't. بيك صاحب مصلحة. If people know who your dad is, they're gonna hurt him, مش أنت. Like they can go break the pharmacy, steal whatever he has in there. إنه they'll know where you live. هيك أخبار. So أنا إنه for the sake of my family كمان, I try to refrain from like if I ever find myself in a situation, شوف someone in public, like as much as I want to say something, I'm gonna refrain from it. لأنه عن جد there's a lot of things at stake.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a good way to segue into our topic for the day. We're discussing a topic that I spend quite a bit of time thinking about, given the nature of our work and the website. We tend to cover, trending events and news stories around Lebanon. And so the topic today is, are children of politicians fair game? Yes, they are. And I'm kidding, but I want to pick your brain about whether or not just the children of politicians, but the families, wives, husbands of politicians are fair game for criticism. To what extent can we criticize them and hold them accountable for their family members' behaviors? And I'll start us off by, not to focus too much on Gebran Bassil, but ironically, not too long ago, videos of his 14-year-old son being cyberbullied by the many people who hate his father had surfaced, and they created a stir. And that was kind of when I started thinking of this topic. إنه في ناس بيقولوا شو خص الأولاد، في ناس بيقولوا إنه لا نحن بلبنان ما فينا نفرق الأولاد عن الأهل. So I'm curious what you think about that.
Okay, so around the time that this thing happened with Gebran Bassil's son, Donald Trump's kid also had something similar going on, and there was this hashtag that was like Save Barron, like sometime last year. If you want to like compare them, you really see like the difference in politics. Like Honik, his kid was seen as a victim and they did not associate him with his dad at all لأنه هن عندهم it's not viewed as a family business. هون هو كمان he probably experienced the same amount of criticism كأنه هو like his dad, Gebran Bassil, because our politics is revolved around family. It really is a family business. Whoever like wants to separate the kids from the politicians, it doesn't really make any sense. Like I remember مثلا Taymur Jumblat went on an interview with Al Jazeera and he got so much shit for it because he called like the Jumblat line a family business and he wants to keep it going. He got a lot of shit for this, but like that's the truth. As much as we want to attack him for it, that's really the truth. I'm really against this idea of like dissociating like the family or the kids from the politician لأنه at one point or another they're going to either represent the same corrupt views or they're going to be the next in line for all of the chaos that they've been causing over the past few years.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I say it is very different. Like, for example, in the situation of Trump, you had Eric and Don Jr., who were very publicly outspoken supporters of their father's policies. They were in their father's administration. They were poster children of that administration. So the media found it fair game to criticize them, to dig up dirt on them, that were made by them, etc. But then when it came to the younger kid, إنه هيدا شو خصو. But I agree with you. إنه بلبنان, this kid, this innocent kid today, who is just that, he's a child who cannot bear the brunt or the blame for their parents' mistakes, nor glory, by the way. It's not like the kid of a hero should be lauded as a hero, but if it could be our next dictator, and I'm not just talking about Basir's kid, I'm talking about all their kids, you know. So in the case of like Hariri's kid, in the case of like anybody, the Jmail family, the Jumblat family, I don't want to keep anybody aside so that we don't get hit with accusations of being impartial. They're the biggest beneficiaries to a system that caters to them, a system that has made them so wealthy, and a system that they have not done enough to distance themselves from. So, for example, she was in the Trump administration and her daughter hated her, and her daughter was like putting out TikToks like, my mother's crazy, this administration's crazy. I really respected that. Like, it takes a lot of guts to be able to come out and say, my dad stole money and he's a horrible person who has pillaged this country. But the truth is, they don't see it that way. They see their parents as heroes, and they see their parents as people who are incredible. And at this point, with social media and with the internet, it's different.
Like, I'd like to see this scenario applying in Lebanon, where an actual child or someone part of those really big families stand up and say, okay, هني عملوا 1 2 3. I don't have their values. I just share the last name. I don't want to be associated with them. I'd like to see this happening in Lebanon, where someone from those really big families would stand up and say, okay, we share the same last name, but we don't have the same values because عملوا 1 2 3. سرقوا, they were corrupt, خربوا البلد, etc. It would be interesting to see that happening here, but I don't know if it's going to be viewed the same way as the way you viewed the daughter of someone from Trump's family.
Yeah, Claudia Conway, but that's her name.
I think it would have been seen as either a publicity stunt or like, ما بعرف, I think it would have been maybe more negative. I don't think they would have been applauded for that حتى.
هلا it's honestly a double-edged sword. إذا بيطلع حدا من أولاد هول الوزراء وبيقول إنه إيه my dad stole ما أعرف شو، بس إيه حبيبي، بس أنت صار لك قد إيه قاعد مستفيد، قد إيه قاعد reaping these benefits. هلا اليوم فقت إنه تخبرنا إنه your dad stole. You have 3 types. You have the type who says, no, my parents are perfect. My mom, my dad, my uncle, he's great. He's done so much for the country. And then you have another breed, which I think is the worst one, who is the breed that says, he wasn't perfect, but he did better than other people would have. And if he didn't do this, others would have done worse.
The settling for... That's not the worst. He's bad, just not the worst.
Yeah, the bad but not the worst. And if he didn't take this position, someone else would, and they would have done such a worse job. It's like, thank you so much for your sacrifice, you piece of shit. And then you have the others who just, I don't know. I've yet to meet anyone who really disagrees with their parents on like a political level. But this is not just an issue of politicians. Everyone carries their parents' legacies. So like, you carry your parents' legacy, I carry mine, and it's just that my parents didn't actively pillage or rob a country. So yeah, it's different. But something that's interesting, I think, to address is, what does it do, this kind of bullying within quotation marks? You have pages on Instagram and Twitter that are dedicated to kind of doxing these politicians' children, like, oh, look, they're wearing this shoe and they're on this vacation. which is fine. I think that it's important to highlight the difference of living standards for the average idiot who still supports politicians. I think it's important for us to show like they're living really well and you're really not, and something's got to give.
Yeah. I like having هيك pages. Sometimes they can be a wake up call. لما أكون أنا مثلا like رايقة وأقول خلاص everything's gonna be fine. Then I see someone's kid with a, I don't know, $1 million wedding while everyone can't find any baby formula. Then it's like infuriating. بس بنفس الوقت, where is this gonna take us? إنه okay, we know they have lots of money. We know lots of them have jets, yachts, and أراضي. بس بعدين شو? What's gonna
Exactly.
happen?
Like, should we expend our energy elsewhere? Like, because putting all this energy into this one space is clearly not paying off. فينا نقعد نحكي طول النهار قد ايه عنده properties ولي جنبلات, قد ايه عندهم بيت الحريري live well, Birri's kids have like more gold than we have anything in our lives, but what does that do for us, you know? This kind of approach has just not worked, you know?
I feel like it just like weighs on your mental state more than it does any good صراحة, لأنه لما عم شوف كل هالأشياء عم بتصير I see at the same time people suffering, then I'll fall into this like never-ending cycle of ما في أعمل شيء, I can't help anyone. Some people are being affected mentally to such a high extent. A part of the cause is these pages dedicated to, I don't want to blame the pages, but this not very fruitful approach. And okay, we know this has been the reality for years. يعني من وقت my parents were in kindergarten, this has been their reality, and they know about this stuff. Okay, it's just the same broken record at this point.
Exactly. That being said, it's very agitating to see politicians and the children of politicians living well. I do get very happy when I see like and his dinner date is ruined. That is happiness for me. I would be so ashamed that I would be actively dissing my parents in public if I were in that position, because I would only want to separate myself from them. So I don't understand if this is like, the two ways to think about it are either this is going to raise awareness and الخروف يلي بعده ماشي مع البوليتيشن بفيق وبيقول إنه أنا أولادي قاعدين عم بيجوعوا وهيدا أولاده are in Switzerland skiing, or it's going to just put so much pressure on these kids and these families that they'll start behaving better. But that's not necessarily true. It's just that they're going to be more private about it.
Oh wait, yeah, they're more private about it. They like the التفشيخ إنه my wedding cost this much, I have these watches, I have these jets, I have ما بعرف شو. They're very transparent about هالأشياء, and that just makes things so much worse. إنه ولو يعني you know what's
ما بيستحوا
unless عن جد they've created such a bubble like around themselves لدرجة they've physically or mentally on all levels distanced themselves من لبنان to feel like there's nothing wrong with what they're doing. كل هالتفشيخ والصور والفيديوهات whatever else they've been posting on their social media or what they've been caught doing. إنه it just توصل إلى مرحلة where you question whether عن جد are they that stupid and are they that outside the Lebanese narrative to feel like إنه خلاص it's okay to do this because أصلاً البلد ما إشبه شيء, or they just really don't care. I really hope it's the first one more than the second one, لأنه I feel like it's just pure evil to know إنه there's people that were way below the poverty line وما معهم يشتروا, ما فيهم يأمنوا لعيالهم, while you're like partying God knows where with God knows who. I honestly, this is so heartbreaking to even consider.
Yeah, I would think it's like a little bit of both. I think they're also definitely in echo chambers. The very few people who I do know who come from political families, their everyday kind of consists of, oh yeah, my mom or dad or whatever, uncle, they got an award for humanitarian of ما بعرف شو. Oh, my, again, insert family member, somebody came and thanked them for their donation. So I think they have also like a very, very skewed perception of their, because you have to remember, and all they hear is هيدا ابن ما بعرف مين, we love him so much, and that's what they see from people that are around them in their inner circle. I'm so glad that these people have to see how much we hate their parents.
That's a positive aspect. That's a good way to look at it.
Because if you look at like 10 years ago, they really thought they were adored.
Yeah, sometimes, like my parents, I've watched them transition from ما بدي أقول خوريف بس that's super offensive to my parents, but from people who were in support of a certain community of individuals to people who just stood against them, and they were very vocal about it. Like, seeing this transition is amazing because there's social media and now they have access to it. But what's so like disheartening is seeing people like our age, they have access to all of the media, they have everything they need to take a stance against the ruling party, and they still choose not to. This concept like of ignorance is bliss, عن جد, it's hitting full force هون بلبنان. Applause to anyone who underwent like this development, يعني, they realized the corruption وكل شيء اللي عايشين فيه إنه من وراهن, they went through this change, they educated themselves, like you can just hope that everyone else goes through this as well. لأنه عن جد it's been 2 years. إذا your wake up call didn't come like be October 2019, إنه شو ناطرين.
Yeah, exactly. And if politicians' kids have not figured out how to stand with the people, I think that politicians' kids are the closest in the sense that you and I might not be able to comprehend how privileged they are. They know. So they know how easy things come to them. They know how tilted everything is. They know how many like small things like government contracts, government kickbacks, how many advantages they've gotten just because their parent fills like a shitty seat or position. So ironically, they should be more aggressively against their parents if they have a conscience, but they don't.
It's a matter of like values at this point, and no, like the right and wrong. And no, like the idea of like being descendants of my parents, so I represent them. بدهم يشوفوا حالهم فيه ويفتخروا فيه. If my parents do not have values that align with mine, if they are overall bad people, I should be aware enough or mature enough to know to decide إنه I have to dissociate منهم. So I understand إنه being from هالعائلة اللي عندها like so many benefits ومأمنين ومرتاحين everyone wants that بالآخر, بس at the same time إنه you have a brain that can understand شو الصح وشو الغلط. و60 سنة يعني إذا I'm living in a mansion completely ignorant وما بدي ساعد حدا, I'd rather be like on the street. If I'm helping people بكتفي باللي عندي. So I don't like understand like their thought process in this entire situation, like staying silent or just not caring at all. It's very hard to comprehend صراحة.
Yeah, it actually reminded me as you were speaking about there was like a documentary I watched not too long ago. It's called Sins of My Father, and it's Pablo Escobar's son, and he goes to people's kids who his father had killed, basically apologizes and owns the fact that he comes from this very like heinous criminal who's responsible for the deaths of so many people. But at the same time, this guy has good memories of his father. His dad loved him when they were kids. His dad brought him gifts and treated him very well, obviously. And it's similar to any horrible person's kids. Like if your parent does something awful, they're still your parent. You still have really good memories, I'm sure. But in Lebanon, it's crossed the threshold. You have 4 or 5 million people who are almost starving at the end of the rope and just so tired. And then you have a group of 10 politicians, or it's like at most 50 politicians or something, who are thriving and living so disproportionately well that you cannot but see the split.
Yeah, I don't think they realize إنه هيدا the simple act of actually going to these families and apologizing مع إنه it seems like super simple or not something that's really gonna do anything is a اعتذار can do so much at this point صراحة, just to admit إنه عم بيصير في غلط. Cause how long have they been in power من وقت ما أمي وبيي كانوا ولاد صغار, and not a single apology in the past like 30 plus years. It's just really that simple. That's the first step صراحة.
Unfortunately for us, I think because we have in Lebanon never taken our civic duty of voting and being politically active seriously enough, and we've allowed for these people to rule over us for so long, it's that we can't come today and نحاكمهم. يعني هن منهم حيحاكموا بعض ومنهم حيحاكموا حالهم وتنحنا نجي نفكر إنه this power shift is going to happen so intensely that it's going to allow the underdog to kind of suddenly rule and hold these people accountable is a little bit disconnected from reality, in my opinion. إنه nothing spoke to me more than علقوا المشانق. I do think each of them needs to be completely hanged and killed, but along the line of what you were saying, إنه if we can't have that, can we have an apology and have just like back off the government, back off the state, back off our lives? We don't want to see you. We don't want to think about you anymore. I think that's a more realistic, maybe. Although that's also not realistic in reality. They're never going to do that.
If we actually look at this like politics-wise, I think maybe you're more like knowledgeable about these things. But I know like the political system Lebanon overall, it was built to benefit هالناس. يعني if you see some people think once you vote for independent parties or like المجتمع مدني, I'm not sure يعني whatever other parties there are that are against the current political regime, is that the political system itself مبني على السرقة وعلى الفساد و everything that's been going on over the past God knows how many years. It's not gonna stop after ما تصوتوا. People think إنه our biggest obstacle is gonna be الانتخابات, but the corruption is just so embedded be our society وبي the political system كلها. It's really not gonna stop there. I think إنه لازم يفكروا لبعدين. It's not like مثلا فكروا like up until ثورة, okay now what? Now they started discussing what's gonna like the next steps للانتخابات. بس يجوا الانتخابات, what's gonna happen next? لأنه you're gonna have a new party, like a ruling party إن شاء الله يعني. We're gonna have maybe a decent ruling party that's gonna give us our basic needs. But the entire, I don't want to say this, but the entire country, the entire system بدها كاب وبدها like to be rebuilt from scratch.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Like voting is the first step, and then when you have these people in and you rely on them to magnify what's happening, so people on the inside are going to be the ones that are so if you foresee the lists will be infiltrated, which I agree with you, you're going to have some people who are independent gain seats. We'll rely on these people to band together and to say so-and-so is doing this and we're going to block it, so-and-so is doing this and we're going to block it. It's still slightly unrealistic considering how powerful that B are. They just numerically are a bit overwhelming at this point, but that's how you start. You start with small incremental change and we take it from there, but yeah, you're right. What's going to change overnight? It's not enough just to vote and to go to sleep. For you to be an active citizen means that you have to hold the people who you voted in accountable. Did they do what they say? Did they gain anything on the back of their position? And that's what's happening now, is we're all becoming citizens. We were all before not citizens. We were just kind of inhabitants of this country. And I think now the younger generation is becoming a citizen.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Well, I think currently the biggest thing that's holding people back هلا هيدي العادة اللبنانية that is يتعودوا يعني لما صار الدولار 2000 few weeks ولع البلد اوكي تعودوا بعدين صار 5000 and then 10 و15 and you just see people انه يا جماعة what's going on they're just getting used to it
yeah, people are
مثل ما تعودوا على
exhausted.
الفساد مثل ما تعودوا على everything else that's going on. I think right now هلا if they overcome this very ugly Lebanese characteristic, it's in all of us يعني I don't want to like pinpoint certain people or exclude certain people بس لأنه this is like the majority have this thing it's so ugly. Once this is overcome بحس it's gonna actually start إنه actual change or actual movements or being active citizens. I think it would start after they overcome like this point.
Do you think people should go after kids of politicians? Just to wrap up, yes or no?
Short answer, أكيد yes.
Me too. I'll say akid yes. I'll say maybe not minors because I don't know. They haven't had the chance to distance themselves yet. They're kids. So, but then if they're adults, then akid yes. If they've had $1 million wedding or a $10 million wedding, multiply that yes by 100 times. If they're wearing like your annual salary on their wrist, then times 1 billion. Yes. Thank you, Taleen, for having a conversation with me. I think it was really informative. I think we got into like the crevices of what it is to be Lebanese right now, kind of what we're all thinking of, you know, what kind of citizens are we being? Are we being active enough? Also, why do we feel this kind of ihbat? And how can we unite around feeling this way? Yeah, listen to the other episodes in this season. We have an episode that tackles, like I had said, the suicide prevention hotline. We have an episode about misogyny, etc. And we're hoping for more down the line. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on social media for more and listen to the other episodes in the season. You can find the links below in the description box.